Hey, do you like that? Uh-oh, how am I going to shut this thing off? That is that's my happy dance. Of course, I don't dance, so that was my little one-eyed troll there my kid plays with. Anyway, my happy dance is because I haven't had any Harvoni for 5 days. Now, if you watch my other video, you know I was taking a few little molecules, and I took less and less and less. And so it's been over 5 days now, 5.5 days, and I haven't had any Harvoni at all. And I think the lion's share of symptoms are gone. I mean, if I have any more left, it's I just feel a little bit of fatigue, just a tiny bit. More fatigue than when I was on Harvoni. Harvoni was I had a lot of strength and energy. My urine is still good and golden colored, yellow, so I'm pretty sure the virus hasn't came back on me. My 2 viral load tests I had 4 weeks after taking Harvoni was below 15, and my last one was below 15. They're not testing whether there's any detected or none detected. The test I'm getting is just if it's below 15, they can't detect it. So I guess we'll have to wait and see for another 2.5 months or whatever before I get another viral load test. And but I should know if it comes back on me, because my pee was brown for 24 years, so I know. I mean, that's the first thing I noticed. Like literally 2.5 weeks after taking Harvoni. And if you recall in the last video, I didn't take the full dose of Harvoni for 10 days because I'm a hypersensitive person. That's why I had Harvoni left over. I actually took Harvoni full doses for about 3 days, 4 days, because I had a lot left over. I didn't take a lot in the first 10 days. But anyway, I wanted to show you this here. Let me set this down. This is to show you how I started out. And let me see, here's the date, 9/18/15, and here is my F4, see the result below. I was an 88, F4 cirrhosis, A3 severe activity for your my necroinflammant, see. So it's F4 cirrhosis, and I was really high off the chart for inflammation, and then my alpha, whatever macroglobulins, was high. My heptoglobulin was low. ALT and stuff, those were high. They weren't that bad though. And that just shows you the list of different levels. And anyway, so I started out with stage 4 cirrhosis, and an 88 out of 100, and I really honestly don't know what that means, but I'm figuring once you get to 100 it's game over for you, you know. So that's how far gone I was. But I wasn't to the point where I began developing symptoms of stage 4. But I'll tell you, about 6-7 years ago, I got confused and cold, and I couldn't shake it, and I was weak. I read up on alpha-lipoic acid, so I started taking 2 of those a day, and immediately I was restored to functioning. I had been taking milk thistle a while, and I didn't see any benefit, so I quit. And then about 2 weeks, it was a week before Harvoni, not 6 weeks. I think I said 6 weeks in the video, but it was actually a week before I started taking Harvoni. I started researching a bunch, because after they told me, hey, you got stage 4, I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So then I started taking lecithin and I increased my alpha-lipoic acid to 1,200 milligrams a day, and eventually I increased my lecithin to 6 1,200 milligram pills a day during the treatment. But initially I was only taking 1 or 2 a day. And then methionine. Now see, methionine is a detoxifier. So is it detoxifying some of the Harvoni out of my system? I don't know. But was it? I'm not sure. But if I didn't, I took methionine for years, and if I didn't take methionine, I get so weak I couldn't even function. I mean, it was that bad where I wouldn't be able to work. So that's why I took methionine. And I know the doctor said don't take any supplements, just eat a bland food, just take your Harvoni, and we don't want anything to interfere. Well, that wasn't good enough for me. So I basically become a guinea pig. And I'm not saying what I did will work for somebody else, because we know 20 people can line up and shoot a load of heroin in their system, and some will start puking, some will get high and love it, somebody might OD and die, somebody might have allergic reaction, who knows. So everybody's different. I understand that, and everybody has different outcomes. You just like you see them commercials on TV. They advertise a certain drug, and then it talks really fast. Some symptoms, some side effects may include, and then death, blindness, your liver failure, heart, lungs, spine, spine, legs falling off, head fell off, whatever. I mean, all these lists all these symptoms. Well, not everybody has a heart attack from it. Not everybody has this or that, but it's a roll of the dice. It's just a toss of the dice. But if you watch Harvoni Day 50, you'll see I pretty much listed all the supplements except for vitamin D. Right at the end of the video I mentioned D, but I do take it, and I still take it. But I came to the conclusion, for me personally, not that it's scientific by any means, through my research, that the Harvoni's screwing up some people, due in part because of lack of vitamin B12 and lack of vitamin D. And who knows what else, it might block a lot of minerals and vitamins. It might purge a lot of vitamins and minerals. Some people say after a few weeks of taking Harvoni, then they started going downhill. Well, I started going downhill 5 to 6 weeks into Harvoni. I mean, getting weak and weak. And then I discovered someone saying, hey, their vitamin D was low. So I started popping 5,000. I went from 1,000 to 5,000. I first started taking 1,000, then I jumped to 5,000 international units or whatever, vitamin D. And I snapped out of it in a few days. After 2 weeks of just going up and down, oh man, it's getting worse, it's getting worse. So I know that pulled me out of fatigue, and I don't know what D has to do with fatigue, but it did. And so I was glad I pulled out of it. Then everything was fine when I came to the end of my trip of Harvoni. The last 10 days, maybe 7 days, 10 days, I showed you in Harvoni 50 how I was taking my carrot juice and my lime and apples and grapes and blending them all together and drinking it, and vinegar. Well, I kind of backed off that because the acid was getting to me, stomach. I was started taking Zantac at night, and so I finally just stopped for a while. But then I read, after Harvoni, I started having these symptoms, because all that stuff's alkalizer. I was concerned maybe I'm alkalizing my body too much, because it does say Harvoni prefers acid. So that began to make me worry a little. But then after I got off Harvoni, and I started having, after the 3rd day, I started having severe heart palpitations. I mean, I was feeling great. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was thinking, I'm off, I feel good. Because I felt really good, man. I mean, I felt like I was 12 years old again, or 17 or 20 or something, man. I was just like hyper and all horny. Yeah, that's one thing, I'm getting extremely, everything's, because of the cirrhosis, I did have symptoms where I would have hard time sexually keeping everything on the up and up, if you know what I mean. I mean, I hate to talk about it, but it's just, that's one of the symptoms I had, was having a hard time keeping it hard, to be honest with you. And now, it's just like, it's back, you know, all in its full strength, you know, and so some of my bad thoughts. So I'm kind of, you know, trying to get myself spiritually in line with the Lord more, to try to, but, you know, I mean, it's kind of like just letting a guy off a ship, a seaman or something, you know, just, you know. So anyway, but I did have a few things. My eyes started, while taking Harvoni, my eyes got more fuzzier, and my memory, my fogginess, confusion to absorb information, you know. And the boss would tell me something to do. If he told me like 2 or 3 things, I'd be like, wait a minute, just show me the first thing, let's do this. So then I started taking folic acid. I started popping it during the old Harvoni ride, and that helped me out. So I know the Harvoni's doing something. But the acidosis thing, if you research Harvoni and acidosis, somebody sent me an email and said that's what it is. That's what's wrecking some of these people. Wrecking their lungs, wrecking their, getting them asthma and lung scarred. And this acidosis builds up in your system. And then, you know, so I always used to take baking soda to neutralize. I mean, I would take a teaspoon at night. I did that for years instead of taking a stomach pill. Like Zantac, when I went to bed at night, I would just take a teaspoon of baking soda. But I read somewhere where somebody said it doesn't work, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. But anyway, and I realized, well, taking that lime and those fresh grapes and the carrot and the apples, that was a great neutralizing tonic for me. But, and apparently it didn't neutralize it bad enough to where it didn't work. The Harvoni, you know, worked. And, I mean, you can separate them things. So if you're, it was like a juggling thing, but I didn't know it at the time. But I think because I did it the way I did, I would drink my juice in the morning and at night before I went to bed. And I think that was, the Harvoni had plenty of time to do its job and get in there to where it was supposed to be at in my system. And then my system would get neutralized enough where hopefully I didn't have the side effects. But like I say, that's just another theory. I have no idea. But I do know for sure if I hadn't have took that vitamin D, it would have crippled me and kept me from working. Now, I do have a little tiny side effect still. My anxiety level, after I got off Harvoni, the 3rd or 4th day, I started having severe heart palpitations. I mean, they were so bad. I mean, every time I had one, it felt like it was a heart attack. And then it just, boom, and gone. And then that one time it hit 5 times. Well, I've had a few heart palpitations over the last few days, but I've had heart palpitations my whole life. Little tiny ones, you know. And the ones over the few days were just little tiny ones, you know, little gas, you know, maybe causing it or something. But my anxiety is, I would say, 90% gone now. And it's been 5 days since I've had a little piece of Harvoni. I really believe taking and saving some Harvoni and just taking a little tiny bit each day. And then I took less of that and less of that, see. So I just weaned off. I weaned myself off of heroin years ago. I went to Mexico, I bought 1,000 Darvons and brought them back. Yeah. And I used those to get off heroin. I would take 30 a day. I would take 10 in the morning, 10 later, and 10 at night. And then I went to 9, then 8, then 7, then 6. And I weaned myself off heroin that way. So I just applied the same thing with this Harvoni. I eased into it slowly, and when I seen I was having some severe problems, and and maybe that helped my system to recover quicker. I don't know. Maybe whatever. Maybe it caused me to be longer with the symptoms. I don't know. But one thing I do know, I'm glad I had that extra Harvoni, because I think I would have been in the hospital racking up money, getting 1,000 tests, you know, forget that. But so everything's good now. Just my anxiety is just diminished down to nothing. Another thing I did for my anxiety was I took magnesium, and I still take it every day. There's a stuff called Calm at Campbell's Nutrition. I took it, and I just sprinkle some in my cranberry juice or my water and just flush it down. I still take my milk thistle every day, my methionine every day. I still take my A, E. I don't take A and E every day. I kind of rotate them. And I still take my C every day. I still take my alpha lipoic acid. I still take 1,200 milligrams of it. I still take my calcium, magnesium, zinc. I've been taking my zinc, my other zinc that I normally don't take every day because I've had a sinus infection. And I take it whenever I got a bug. You know, zinc's a really good antimicrobial bacterial. So, and I've been pounding down some garlic too. But I'm taking all that stuff. My last viral load test was while I was still on Harvoni, so obviously it was below 15. Well, anyway, that's pretty much my update. So I'm feeling better, and I do have fatigue, but it's not like it was before Harvoni. It's more than during Harvoni. I mean, during Harvoni, I felt really, really good. I mean, hey, if Harvoni was a drug I could get on the street, I'd probably take it just to feel good. But no, but it sure made me feel good. But I know that that's my goal, to get that way again, to feel that way I was when I was taking Harvoni. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to pull right out. I'm going to keep right on with my supplements, healing my system, helping my system to heal, and I'm going to keep on rolling with it. And anybody that's suffered lung damage from Harvoni, I can't think of the name of it. If I find it, I'll put it on this video underneath. But there is a certain herbal extract of something. I can't think of it now, but it has COPD sufferers are alleviated by 40% by taking this. So there might be some help that way for you, instead of just being on broncho inhalers and whatever and continuing to downgrade. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Not that I'm a doctor or anything, and I'm not recommending anything. I'm just telling you how I roll and my thoughts for the day, and the thoughts of Harvoni. And it's just drains out your minerals. It perhaps acidizes your system and damages you permanently. In some cases, in some people's cases, because they're not alkalizing their body. Their body isn't alkalizing itself. It isn't getting enough of the proper foods. Maybe you're still eating your candy bars and living like, junk food, cooked. Instead of having raw vegetables and a raw diet, you're maybe eating a lot of acid. Because you can take alkaline foods and turn them into acid by cooking them. But that's all I got to say, man. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm starting to feel scarily better now. And I mean, it's kind of going like this, but it's going like up and down, but it's still getting a little higher every day. And I'm so glad that anxiety passed me. Man, that was a nightmare. That anxiety was bad. It was definitely bad. And I want to give God the glory for helping me through this, because my wife, honestly, she's a prophetic. She's gotten a lot of information about the future and different things, non-specific stuff. I mean, you can see on one of my other channels some of the stuff she said, and it was all came out to be true. But she's the one that told me about the vitamin D. When I was saying, man, I'm getting weaker and weaker every day. And so what I'd read from this other guy, but the fatigue thing didn't tie in, you know, but when I started taking it, I just pulled right out of it. But so that came from the Lord, so I want to give him all the glory and praise and honor. You know, I know a lot of you probably don't believe in God, but I do. I mean, Jesus Christ himself appeared to me years ago when I was in a prison cell. When I wasn't asking for him, I wasn't looking for him. I didn't believe in nothing but sex and drugs and rock and roll. And a voice told me to go to the prison chapel, and I said, you're nuts, I hate church, I'm never going. And it said, go to church, over and over, to the point where it drove me nuts. And I just said, all right, God damn it, I'll go to church. And I screamed that as loud as I could in the prison cell. And so I got dressed and I went to church, and at the end of the service, a ghost stood in front of me about 5 feet away. I couldn't see its face, but it spoke. But I could tell it was looking right at me. I could feel it looking right at me. And it spoke right into my head like it did when I was in my bunk. And it said, this is Jesus Christ standing in front of you. Come to me today. And that was the beginning of my life changing. That experience. When I said yes in my head back to it, it disappeared, and I just felt something just pass through my body. And that's when my life began to change. I wasn't perfect after that because I was a savage. It took me years and years to get where I am. But that was the beginning of my trip with God. And so, if you don't believe in him, okay, but you know, I seen him, you can't convince me. And he's helped to change my life, and I give him all the glory. And for all of you going through this, I hope some of it's helped you out. But I'm not recommending anything, just showing you how I roll with the old Harvoni. And good luck to y'all. And I'm sorry for the ones that are suffering, and I hope you pull out of it. Have a good day.